The prosecutor also said there's evidence she had tried to cut herself 1 to 2 weeks prior to her death. On her first night in jail, Bland left a voicemail message for a friend, struggling to understand what was happening to her.
I'm still just at a loss for words, honestly, about this whole process. How did switching lanes with no signal turn into all of this?
The voicemail was obtained by ABC station KTRK in Houston. Newly released documents show that earlier that day, she told jail officials that she had tried to kill herself, 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 tried to kill herself in 2014 after losing a baby, but said she was not suicidal on that day. Her family's attorney says they were unaware of the past attempt and that in any event, it doesn't matter.
She was extremely happy during her pregnancy. She had a good pregnancy, but after the baby was born, things went bad in a hurry. She couldn't sleep. She was always tired. She was always anxious.
She had a lot of trouble feeding her. For some reason, that was a really hard thing for her to do.
Like a fish out of water with the baby. She didn't seem like she just didn't know what to do.
Stacy sought help, enrolling in a class for new moms at HCMC. There's where she first admitted to a counselor to having thoughts of suicide. Doctors admitted her to the psychiatric ward, where she was released a week later. Stacy went back to the new mom classes, but the depression continued, and before long, Stacy would be admitted again.
She was going to jump off a bridge in downtown St. Paul and was found. The police were called.
Her parents say Stacy desperately wanted to get help. She spent a week at Regions and then transitioned to a group home.
And she said, "Mom, I'm tired of trying," because she tried so many different programs and therapists.
One night, Stacy didn't check in to the group home. Her parents' worst nightmare came true.
He said, "We found Stacy's car at a motel in St. Louis Park. And on the door of the motel, she had written a note that if you find this note, to call her mom and dad."
Pregnancy and Postpartum Support Minnesota estimates 15 to 30% of new moms suffer from depression, but the number could be higher because some women are afraid to report it.
Most moms are fearful that if I talk to someone about this, what are they going to think of me? If I share this with my husband or with my partner, are they going to think I'm crazy and that the baby isn't safe with me?
2013, I was pregnant and I lost my baby. That was by far the worst thing I have ever went through in my life. Like, I have never been so hurt and so disappointed and so sad and so sick and so miserable and so depressed in my life. But when I lost my first child, like, that took a toll on me. Like, that took a really, really, really bad toll on me. Like, I had started drinking like crazy. My baby had spina bifida. It had a lot of abnormal things wrong with it. Like, it was the worst. So I had to terminate the pregnancy. And the crazy part about it is, one of the specialists asked me, did I want to carry the baby before it's term? And I'm just thinking, like, why would I want to carry a baby before it's term if it's not going to live? But anyway, I gave birth to my first child December 1st, 2013. But it passed. It was a stillborn. But that was by far the worst I have ever been through. I was so mad and miserable back then and sad and depressed back then. Like, I tried to commit suicide.
What do you see in this video?
Well, I see a lot of things from the very beginning. And, you know, it's very an emotional situation, a very emotional subject, but I really think we need to stick to the facts. What I've seen from the beginning is that I see a cop that escalated a situation because, you know, of course, he should have told her to put her cigarette out. He should have just said, you know what, go ahead and smoke, and I'll finish this. Stick it when you're done. And she would have probably hurried up and put the cigarette out just to get this over with. So I see him acting completely inappropriately and unprofessionally, and I see the jail not taking into account the fact that she obviously has a depressed and previous suicidal background. Okay, so those things to me are civil issues, and I think that there's something that should be followed up on with the family, why it was that she wasn't checked on more often? Why was she put in a cell by herself? All of those things. Do I think that she was murdered or that there was some criminal activity that went on? Absolutely not, and for numerous reasons.
She was crying.
She was crying,
Aretha.
She was crying, but she was crying
with all due
because
respect,
no one was answering her phone calls. She was crying because she couldn't get anybody of her 4 sisters to put together $125 each and bail her out of jail.
Okay. But I got to be honest with you guys. I am suffering from something that some of you all may be dealing with right now. It's a little bit of depression as well as PTSD. I've been real stressed out over these past couple of weeks, but that does not excuse me not keeping my promise to you all by letting you know that somebody cares about you, someone loves you, and that you can go out there and do great things. But I want you guys to know that I'm a human. And so if there are any of you that are dealing with these same things, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, it's okay. It is okay to talk about it. I think that those illnesses are something that the African American culture likes to turn a blind eye to and act like that they don't affect us. And they do. They really do. So I'm coming out here now, Sandy Speaks, and letting you know that, yeah, I deal with it. And some of you watching this probably deal with it too. And you have to know that it is okay.
What up, it's Second Mel. Make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe button, help me to continue to grow. And there's a couple of things I got to talk about. Besides the fact that this person yesterday, Ariel, some anonymous name hiding behind whatever with no picture, threatened, well, not threatened, wished death upon me and my entire family and called me a puss, all while mentioning Jesus. This person was upset because I mentioned mental health. And I agree with Sandra that mental health is a stigma within the Black community because you mention it and people giving you death threats. Oh, yeah. Like, people are so angry, so upset. I want to break down a couple of things. I want to show you something that maybe you didn't hear about before. Maybe you didn't know about. Before I really get into it, I just want to contest the whole you can't have a mental health discussion in regards to Sandra Bland. The Sandra Bland Act that I mentioned yesterday specifically is a measure that mandates county jails to divert people with mental health or substance abuse issues toward treatment that requires independent law enforcement agencies to investigate jail deaths. Literally, the act with her entire name is for mental health people. You're the reason why mental health is stigmatized, because people like you mentioned mental health and people start cursing you out and going crazy and getting upset and take it to a whole nother level. And I've talked about different mental health things and medications and all kinds of stuff here on my channel. They don't really get views, but I still talk about it. Let's talk about the whole strangulation, the plastic bag. That's weird. I give you that. How do you do that with a plastic bag or a trash bag? How do you asphyxiate yourself? Because my thought is if she just put it around her head like this, that eventually she might pass out, but then she would let go and her body would return to normal breathing automatic function, right? But and they should really give some more details. Did she put the bag around the bedpost and she was on her knees and just leaned forward, or how is this possible? That is a good question, but I want you to listen to this from CNN. An inmate who was held in a cell adjacent to Bland told CNN that she did not hear any commotion or screaming that would suggest foul play. Bland was found dead. The woman was asked not to be identified, but she stated that Bland was emotional, often crying during her 3 days in the jail. Now, just crying doesn't signify that, oh yeah, somebody's gonna kill himself. Even the video that I played in the beginning where Sandra is talking about mental health and that she's gone through some stuff and she was depressed and had PTSD. I don't know what she's talking about, but it doesn't signify that she's just gonna go kill herself. But these are all the symptoms and signs. Now, check this out, okay? This is also by CNN. The cause of Sandra Bland's death was hanging. The manner of death was suicide. Warren Dieprem, a Texas prosecutor, told reporters, citing preliminary autopsy reports on Thursday, there were no bite marks or injuries on her face, on her lips, on her tongue, which would be consistent with a violent struggle. Now, I listen to a lot of podcasts, serial killer podcasts. I hear about a lot of crime. A lot of times when people are killed or whatever, they'll check like under their fingernails, they'll check their body parts to kind of see some sort of like resistance. You can maybe find their skin under the nails, blood, that kind of stuff. They didn't find that stuff here, okay? And then it says here, although the investigation is not finished, the prosecutor added that the autopsy they found high levels of marijuana. Now, this is one of the criticisms I faced yesterday. People were so upset. What does it matter? I got THC in my body. What does it matter? Well, and one person was like, oh, just because she had THC doesn't mean that she deserved to die. I never stated that she deserved to die because she has THC. I was just stating the fact of the case that when they did an autopsy on her, there was THC, high levels in her body. I also criticized the cop. I also feel like they should have did a toxicology report on the cop. Where's that at? Because he was turned up and he was acting out crazy. But somebody that has THC in their body and potentially has depression or mental health issues can have adverse effects. Not everybody, the entire world just loves THC and it's all happy experience. I've spoken about my experiences. It cost me anxiety, my heart beating fast. Me and THC don't mix well. That's just me personally. So there's this ideology out there that THC is the perfect thing and nobody can have a bad reaction on THC. But I want to go a little bit more into details of what the evidence points to. Okay? Forget about your feelings, your emotional feelings on this. Now, this is another thing I mentioned yesterday. She had approximately 30 cut marks on her left wrist. Anybody that says you can't have some sort of mental health discussion on this topic is an idiot. All right. Now, not only were there 30 cut marks, but they were in the state of healing. So if they're in a state of healing, it means that this didn't happen in the jail cell. She was cutting before she went into the jail cell. So there's obviously something going on with her. She's going through some issues. Now, there was reports I've seen on multiple sites. I put it in a nice video so you could see it, right? That she apparently attempted suicide in 2014 with pills because she lost a baby, you know. And I was thinking like maybe she had some postpartum depression. It can be very depressing for women. Even when you lose a baby, I've read online that you can still get postpartum depression. It happens a lot. It's underdiagnosed. A lot of times women are going through it and they don't even know they're going through it. Sometimes a medical professional tells them, a doctor might tell them, a nurse was more likely to tell or notice. Or sometimes it just goes unreported, or sometimes a person will report it themselves. And symptoms of depression, right? For postpartum here on the CDC.gov, one of the symptoms here, there's a list, a huge list, but one of the symptoms is thoughts of suicide or suicide attempts. Now, this video in the beginning, she sounds like a nice person. I think a lot of people just thought like I was attacking the woman. I really wasn't. I mean, you guys know how I feel about suicide because of my own personal experiences. This person that said my mother probably has mental health issues. Well, if you watch the video, the whole video, which you probably didn't, I already stated what my dad went through and that he clearly has some sort of mental health issues. Nothing wrong with talking about that. Not afraid of that. So what you're going to get here on my channel, man, it's not going to be about your feelings and making you feel good. You can go to a bunch of other channels. They're not even going to talk about that. Oh, do your research. I did it. It's done. It's done. What happened in that jail cell? I'm not sure. But what I'm saying is all the little things around her, the facts, which they aren't going to tell you about that. They're not going to tell you about she's already tried to commit suicide. They're not going to tell you about the pills that she ingested, the marks on her skin, on her thing, the high levels of THC. They're not going to tell you about that. I've already said the cop was wrong. But this is a deeper discussion to have regarding mental health. It's possible that she did because the evidence points to that. The cop, he lied with the video. For sure, it shows that there's a problem with the justice system. He lied, right? It just got released recently. What else are they lying about? Are they covering up anything? But from the history of this, it's possible that she did, though her family states that she was happy as can be, right? But the family, I don't think they also knew that she was depressed, or she stated she was, or that she took pills and attempted suicide, or that I don't even know if that she lost a baby. There's a lot of things that your family, my family might not know. Definitely in my family, they don't know a lot about me. Let me tell you that. But just because the family doesn't know, it doesn't mean that it wasn't true. You know, I didn't glorify. I didn't say it was great for her to die. I'm just here to tell you the truth. And the other thing that I was criticized for, which is fine if you want to criticize me for that, I feel like she had an attitude. I called out the cop for what he did, but I also feel like she had an attitude. She didn't want to put out the cigarette. And I know a lot of people were like, oh, that doesn't matter. It means nothing. I get that too. But trust me, when you get pulled over, there was one time I got pulled over by cops. I used to have system back in the day before my daughter and all that in the car. I got pulled over. The first thing that came to my mind is, let me turn the system down. I turned it down. The cop pulls me over, gives me a ticket, but he's like, yo, thank you for turning the volume down. Like, they just appreciate those small things. I'm sure every day they get people that trash them. I don't gotta do nothing. You know, like, just you know, I'm not saying that's how she was, Though she did have a bit of an attitude. Doesn't mean she deserved to die. No. And the Sandra Bland Act, like I said, it's a great thing that happened. Is it effective? I don't know. I have no idea. Mental health issues are prevalent everywhere. Who knows how she really felt about that child being lost? So you guys comment below. Let me know your thoughts. The cop lied. But this does show so far the evidence, not just from what happened that day, from historically, from when she admitted herself that she was suicidal at one point. The cuts on her arms. I mean, I had somebody in my family that committed suicide. I talk about that on several videos, and I'm pretty hard on people that do that. I ain't gonna lie. It's a biased opinion, but it's very telling too when people ignore the facts. You know what I'm saying? I can understand the whole evidence thing because people don't trust the cops, right? So, they just didn't release this video until recently. So how can you really trust the evidence? But I'm talking about the facts of high levels of THC. Doesn't mean somebody's going to kill himself, but I'm just saying that if somebody has a mental health issue, if you've ever had a bad freak out attack while having THC in your system, it can really make things pretty bad. Did she get it in the jail? That was another question. Was it before? I stated that people that smoke all the time, the THC builds up in their system. I wasn't saying that to disparage her like the idiots on the video. It's just a fact. Not to be anything bad. When you smoke all the time, it builds up in your system. If you're somebody that smokes once in a blue moon, it comes out of your system like that. It doesn't take 30 days or whatever it is. THC, the cut marks, the past history. She lost a baby. And you know what I have to say too? As part of the stigmatism is all these people that saying it's impossible that she could have killed herself. Because she's black, so it's not possible for the black person to have suicide or depression or anything, right? No, that's not possible. That's crazy. Right? Sometimes I think, man, that, and I'm kind of a conspiracy person myself, you know what I'm saying? But sometimes I think it's not all as complicated as you think it is. Sometimes it's the simpler answer. The cops should have treated her better, but at the end of the day, what are they, they got the settlement, the 1.9 million, because the staff was negligent. She should have been processed through whatever. The cop lost his job. I mean, you can't charge him for death. She killed herself, right? Or unless I guess if you're on the other side that thinks that she didn't kill herself, somebody killed her. But there's no way to prove that, right? The only thing I was saying that they should have charged him for perjury. Now you can definitely charge him for perjury. I don't know if they can go back. There's no double jeopardy, but this was a grand jury hearing, so I don't know if he didn't get charged and get acquitted. They just didn't charge him, I think. So I don't know if they can go back. Ultimately, what are you going to get out of this besides what's happened already? If you charge me and I said, hey, that's great, but are you actually going to charge somebody with murder? There's no evidence of that. The evidence, I know people don't like to hear it. People don't like the truth. I've already said people don't care about the truth. Yo, when you tell the truth, you get cursed out. People threaten your family. You got all these people calling me Uncle Tom and all this stuff. They get all angry. When you lie, I'm going to subscribe. I'm going to hit like and whatever, That's just how it works. I'm not here to cater to making you happy. I'm here to just say the truth. And I give my opinion too, but I'm telling you the facts of the case. That's just what it is. So comment down below, man. Let me know your thoughts. I know that what I've learned here on YouTube is you can't convince anybody. You can't change anybody's mind. So no matter how much evidence is there or whatever's there on video and recordings and statements and signatures, people are just going to believe what they want to believe, I'm just opening your mind to the possibility, which there's a lot of people that find it impossible that she could have committed suicide. Well, I'm trying to open up your mind to that. No, it's actually kind of possible. She probably could have. How she did it with a plastic bag, that is a damn good question, which they should answer for. Those toxicology experts should answer for. And they also had a second autopsy done from an independent person, which I guess they ruled the same thing. I don't know what happened with those results. So comment down below. Peace.
I see potential subscribers. Subscribe for more. This is the mother info war.